Hello everyone, I'm ImKibitz and welcome back to Satisfactory, where last time we went adventuring and collected a bunch of alien artifacts, which gave us the power to enter the void and use dimensional storage. So we could bring our building materials out to the coast and collect some of that precious black gold. And now that I got a little bit of oil, I want so much more. And we'll use it to power our entire world in a super massive turbo fuel power plant. And I do mean super massive. And to commemorate the occasion, we're gonna switch our factory to the amazing Kib's Red. And to get started, we just need some new technologies to help us out. Specifically, Mark II pipes, which are twice as good as the original. Then Mark IV belts, which can handle 480 resources per minute. And finally, the turbo fuel technology itself. And to make it, we're gonna need fuel and also a compacted coal. Let's get that, turbo fuel, and most importantly, a location. Somewhere in the world that has a ton of oil, coal, and sulfur. And unfortunately, our existing setup isn't near anything but oil. But I know another place that will be perfect. This biome here, known as the Blue Crater Lake. It has plenty of sulfur nearby, coal out the wazoo, 2,550 crude oil per minute available, and of course, plenty of water because it's a lake. And all we need are a few alternate recipes to make this all work. So I'll let the hard drives cook while we get to it. And to begin, we're going to brick the biome. Kind of like how I worked on the starter base area. We're going to build concrete all over the place, just around the terrain. So at the end of the day, once we get all of the annoying stuff out of the way, this entire biome is gonna look kind of like the same, just in the same shape, but instead it will be beautiful gray concrete, which is nice and easy to build on. And now with our Mark II blueprint designer, we'll be able to pave the world even faster until there's hardly any world left. So that is phase one. The lake is paved, and now we're gonna move on to phase two, making the turbo fuel. While I was paving and getting this all set up, I was cooking hard drives, and we have lots of alternate recipes, none of which we want, because there's only two that really matter. And to illustrate, I'm just bopping over to a creative world here, and the two recipes we are after are diluted fuel and then the heavy oil residue recipe. So the heavy oil residue recipe turns crude oil into heavy oil residue and some polymer resin. The polymer resin, don't really care about. We're gonna just, I don't know, dump it. Doesn't matter. We need the heavy oil residue though, because it can be combined with this diluted fuel recipe and turned into packaged fuel. And what this alternate does is effectively turn water into an oil product, which is really, 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 really good. Because the less crude we use, the more fuel we get, means the more turbo fuel we can produce, and ultimately, the more power plants we can run. Now mind you, the packaging water and packaged fuel stuff leads to a few hiccups we're gonna have to solve. But we need the gas, brother. Back in the Let's Play world, I'm hoping we can rescan the drives to get what we need. Huh? No. Huh? No. That's kind of interesting though. Huh? Brother? I already rescanned this one, I don't remember why. Huh? No. Huh? Recycled rubber is really good. I will be using that later on, but right now, huh? Alternate turbo fuel. Oh, this uses heavy oil residue and compacted coal to make it. Whereas the normal recipe uses fuel and compacted coal. So this kind of skips a step, but the reason why we want that diluted fuel recipe is so we can double the use of our crude oil. So we're not gonna use that. We just need those recipes though, which we're gonna get, brother. Well, good thing I have 7 more hard drives to scan over the next hour. But through brute force, we got the recipes. Good, very good. And while I was waiting for things to scan, I got started with the project. So we'll set this up, Control C, Control V, and run across the refineries. And then realize, wait a second, what am I doing? Why would I set the recipes right now? When we could be setting everything in a blueprint. How many refineries can we pack in here? If we can fit 3, that would be so nice. 1, 2, 3, 4? I think we're gonna set up 3 though. Because what you're trying to do with these blueprints is you're trying to make them tileable. And that means you can just add on another one of the blueprint you made onto the other end. So for some systems, we might need 3 refineries. For some, we might need more. We just want to build each set of blueprints right beside each other to make our lives a lot easier. So this is the setup we have here. We'll have the resin go onto a pellet underneath, the heavy oil residue will pump up top, and then all of the crude will enter through the back, and we just copy and paste this forever. And sadly get rid of all the stuff I've already built. Mostly just to get stuff aligned though. Thankfully, when you press H, you can hold things and nudge them with the arrow keys, and that makes building a lot easier. And if you go to blueprint build mode by pressing R, that also helps quite a bit. Or, if you misplace, blueprint dismantle mode, so you can delete the whole thing. Yeah, because these giant blueprints can be a little tricky sometimes. All right, at the end of the day, we needed about 33 of these refineries here, and we actually already kind of have them, but now we have all this extra space here. So, well, I think we're just gonna build some more extra ones, just because it's like a rule of cool thing. Like, it'll look way better if we build some more here and fill out this platform. Plus, the platform I built down here is kind of adjustable. Like, I've tried to stick to the terrain as much as I can, so it's hard to cut down, but it's always easy to build out. So that's what we'll do. And heavy oil refineries are dunskies. Except since I built too many, we're just having them run on 50% clock speed. And looking at the numbers, everyone always asks, Kibs, how do you figure out your calculation numbers? Well, usually I have a goal in mind, like making a lot of power. So I find an area where I want to build a power plant, determine what kind of fuel I want to use, and then I figure out my limited resource. And looking at this area here, we have tons of oil, we have tons of coal, but we don't have a lot of sulfur. So I was like, okay, let's see how much sulfur I can reasonably get. And there's 3 nodes here, and then a pure node over here. And there's enough coal, oil, and water to do whatever the heck else I want. And so with the technology we have, the Mark II miners and the Mark IV belts, we can extract about 1,400-ish sulfur. So bringing those numbers into the spreadsheets here, I was like, we could make 1,300 whatever compacted coal. That uses a nice clean 750 crude oil, leaving us with a bunch left over for other projects. And run through the rest of the numbers, it's technically 25 heavy oil residue refineries, making us 1,000 heavy oil residue, which can be turned into 2,000 fuel with a diluted packaged fuel recipe. And then we just have to build a bunch of machines, package 2,000 water, and then we got turbo fuel out the wazoo. Which is why we're underclocking a bunch of these heavy oil refineries, because I kind of built twice as many as I need almost. And if that all seems overwhelming, I'm periodically gonna put all of my spreadsheets, world saves, and blueprints on my Patreon. If you want to support me and get some handy dandy blueprints and world saves and stuff, go check it out by clicking the link in the description. Back to the project though, that is only step 1. Now we need to get hydrated and get a little bit of water. Luckily, we got a little bit of water. A lot of bit of water, in fact. And 2,000 water per minute isn't actually too bad. Each one of these can get 120 water per minute. So 2,000 divided by 120 is about 17 water extractors. And because we have the Mark II pipes, these can carry 600 each, and 2,000 divided by 600 is rounded up 4 pipes. So scary big numbers, but when you break it all down, it's not too bad. So hydration secured, piped up this way, and it's going into packagers. The annoying thing with this packaged diluted fuel recipe is that we need packaged water, and we're gonna get packaged fuel, and it's gonna be a whole thing. So again, huge shout out to Blueprints, saving the day, yet again. We'll have the packaged water go through here, heavy oil residue there, dilute all the fuel, and then in the same blueprint, we'll unpack the fuel, send the empty canisters on their way in the fuel to be further processed. One big thing with this whole recipe and this whole factory though is all these canisters. You might be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with canisters. Well, guess what? You only need to build a certain few. Because once you get all of your fuel processed and you get your canisters, it's a closed loop system. You empty the canisters once it's made into fuel. You send the empty canisters back to be packed with water. The water goes back to turn into fuel. Empty canisters come back, and it's a closed loop. You just have to build enough canisters to get the whole thing going. It's just the belt work. The belt work is gonna be a little bit of a thing, especially with, you know, the 480 belts. But we will do our best. I've left a bunch of room here in the factory for logistics space. So we have all of the heavy oil residue being dealt with here, packaging here, fuel there, empty lane for belts and pipes and whatnot. I know you probably caught in the corner here. I'm turning the polymer resin into plastic and just throwing it into a resource sink. We don't need it, but you know, maybe we'll need plastic at some point. Don't know, don't care. I got a lot of belt work to do, like connecting all the blueprints together and using that very precious logistics space to belt all of the different systems together. So a lot of belt work, very simple. Like I said, just bring the empty packages back into be packaged with water, taking the water packages, getting them diluted into fuel. That was kind of the only hard part. I thought this would be a little bit worse. Leaving yourself room for logistics, always a good idea. Quick note though, this is for loading the packages into the system initially. I started making them over at our other fuel area, and then the heavy oil residue was kind of fine. At the end of the day, we're making 1,000 heavy oil residue, so all I had to do was split it up in half and send half of it to one side of the fuel system, the other half to the other side, and the system is good to go. So that's it. 2,000 fuel per minute, right here, right now. And you know, technically speaking, we could just throw this into the fuel generators, and because their burn rate is 20 per minute, that would mean we could run 100 fuel generators, each making 250 megawatts, so you know, that's a pretty good chunk of power. But of course we want more. That means we're not done yet, Chief. We need compacted coal. So I set up this really, really nice assembler blueprint that's just an overflow system. And this will be setting up all of our compacted coal, of which we need 1,334 per minute. Divided by 25, we need about 54 assemblers. And a lot of resources. And I'm kind of regretting the numbers I chose here as well, because up here, we only have like 930 sulfur per minute. So we have a pure, normal, and impure node, 930 resources with Mark II miners, and Mark IV belts. And that means we have to go over to the other sulfur node, which, you know, on the map, it doesn't look like it's too far, but in reality, it is like beyond this cliff, way over there. And setting up a bunch of logistics through the Mushroom Kingdom here isn't gonna be a great time. But at the very least, we're gonna have a nice normal coal node right next to our pure sulfur node. So hey, at least I don't have to set up 2 huge belt highways, right? But you know what? I actually did. Why? Well, because I was live streaming and setting this up, right? And when I looked on the scanner, I was like, okay, the nearest coal node is like right over here, besides the ones we already got. It's like, that seems pretty easy to get to. So I built that first, then I rescanned for sulfur, and as you might notice, it doesn't show a coal node over here. It only shows the sulfur one. So it's like, okay, I'll go send off a belt over this way and then another over this way, because I only found out after there's a coal node literally right next to it right there. So yeah, that whole thing is entirely pointless, and I'll probably destroy it because it looks hideous. Well, that's for later. All right, now we got some automation to do. So the 54 assemblers have been pasted down, and I've gone ahead and I've belted the rest of the coal and the rest of the sulfur over to a central location, which is right in front of here. And as for the factory, we're kind of needing some verticality here. So we're gonna have this factory built a little bit higher up at this point, and then build it even taller as the factory progresses. First, loading all of these assemblers. Each one needs 25 coal and sulfur per minute. These ones are overclocked just because of decimals, but yeah, every other one needs 25 per minute. There's 27 per row, so that's big number. Bigger than the 480 belts we have. So we're gonna have to send 2 belts, 1 belt of 480 and another belt of 195. And because I hate myself, I didn't unlock the smart splitters yet, so now we have this whole system. That should work. All of the stuff goes in this way. This entire assembler line is one giant manifold. So the 480 belts go to the very beginning, which is on the other end. They'll run out of items, and then when they're about to run out completely, I inject in the next belt full of sulfur and or coal. The coal is way back here though. And we'll get all of the compacted coal at the other end and over to our turbo fuel refineries, which ImKibitz is about to set up. And yet another new blueprint. And thank goodness I can just load up old ones and then redesign them, because it saves me a lot of time setting up more belts and whatnot. But this will be all for turbo fuel. And we'll set it up pretty much the same way as the assemblers, where we'll have a 480 belt, it'll overflow through a bunch of different machines, and eventually run out of items, at which point we'll just inject more in with a merger and continue the party ad nauseum. Easy peasy. For the compacted coal, setting up the fuel is gonna be a whole nother story that I'm not gonna think about because I'm too scared right now. Let's just get this whole system set up. And you know, let's line it up with the heavy oil refineries over that way. Gots to do it for the aesthetics, am I right? You're dang right. Gotta make those YouTube thumbnails. And you know what, on that theme, if things don't look all matchy-matchy, we'll set up some extra refineries as well and just put them on like 1% clock speed for even more aesthetics. Oh, the things I do for aesthetics. Gotta say though, this is turned out pretty freaking awesome. Big fan. Not so much for all of the belt work and pipe work though. All the numbers in these rows are terrible, just terrible. I tried to underclock things. I wanted to be precise with the fuel, so we have valves here with like decimal points of fuel to go in each pipe. It's terrible. 2,000 divided by, how many rows is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Guess what? Not fun time. 2,000 divided by 7. What is this? Terrible. Each one of these rows needs 285 fuel per minute. And then these fuel lines, well, there's like 4 of them. Sadly, we're making 2,000 fuel per minute, and 2,000 divided by 600 ain't that nice either. So I got into 4 pipes instead, 2 600 pipes. Then I cut it off down over this way to have 2 360 pipes of fuel, and then like 80 fuel per minute right at the very end. And then I just brought everything in, up the wall, and I kind of just got rid of all of these early pipes. So the 80 pipe goes in this way, goes into the first system, subtract 80 from 285 or whatever, and I had a 600 pipe flow in and feed what's missing, and I repeated that process with the 360 pipes here, and eventually everything got fed. Man though, I wish everything could be as simple as the belts where you just inject more material when you need to. Fluids though, just awful. But we're on the home stretch now. All we gotta do is take the turbo fuel and put it into a bunch of fuel generators. The fuel generators take 7.5 turbo fuel per minute, so 1667 divided by 7.5 is 222.26 fuel generators. Wow. Wow. I bet you had doubts that this area would be filled with machines by the end of today. Well, guess what? We might not even have enough space because these guys are chonky. Very chonky. Thank goodness we have the Mark II blueprint makers though, because inside of them, we can at least squish 2 of these fuel generators. And that does a little bit of the pipe work. It puts down more of these and will save us, I don't know, an amount of time. And yeah, I wasn't wrong. The blueprints definitely helped out a lot, but there's just so much to do. But it'll be all worth it because we are going to get so much power out of this power plant, it'll be wild. After spending just a little bit longer hooking up all of the turbo fuel pipes themselves to all the plants, we are ready to try and get this thing started. But there is a big problem. In order to get turbo fuel power plants online making power, you have to make the turbo fuel. And to make the turbo fuel, it takes some power. A lot of power, especially with this amount of machines. And in our entire world, we're only running on coal right now. So we have about 3,000 megawatts of production. Will that run all this? No. So you might have noticed I have a Hail Mary idea that involves a lot of batteries. So I haven't tried this before, but I think logically it should be fine. See, I have built hundreds of batteries here and charged most of them up. So we have, I don't know, maybe 20,000 megawatts stored and ready to go. And the thing with these batteries is that although they have a limited charging rate, according to their description here, they have an unlimited discharging rate. So theoretically, if we have enough power stored up in the batteries, they can be used to boot up this entire system. And if we can just get the power plants running and cover our butts on the battery bank, then we're good to go. Or the battery bank will fail immediately and we panic. But I believe the batteries got us. This will run just fine. We just need a couple of these guys running. We're gonna be making so much power that we don't need the whole system to be like even fully operational. We just need enough of it to balance out. It's not like all of these guys are overclocked. It's not like a ridiculous amount of power we need to draw, but it is definitely a lot. And so it all comes down to this. I have rewired the entire place so that all we have to do is connect this power line to this power pole. And there's about 3 options. Like I said, either it's gonna work out fine, and hopefully the batteries last long enough for us to make the turbo fuel power. Option 2, we crash immediately and panic. Option 3, something unexpected happens, and we have even more panic. So in 3, 2, 1. No earth-shattering kaboom? What's happening? Is anything happening? The battery is charging. No, the battery is doing some weird stuff. What is happening? Is anything running? Oh yeah, the coal is moving. These machines are online. And oh, I see how it is. Not a lot of stuff is running just this second. But as things boot up, this is all gonna start drawing even more power. So I really don't know how much time we have here. The main thing is, the entire grid did not explode immediately. That is the big thing I was worried about. Now, we should be able to come over here and we should see water being packaged. Yes, all right. Stage 1 online. Water is being packaged. That means it's gonna be ready to be diluted into fuel. And we're just waiting on the oil, I bet. Doesn't look like there's oil here. Oh no, there's oil. It's on the move. Okay, let's paint this as we go. Check the machines. This one's online, all right. We're moving, we're grooving. This might work. The battery's, okay, it's starting to get discharged now, but just barely. We're only using maybe 100 megawatts here, so we're just on the cusp. With oil filling the pipes and water being bottled, the more machines will activate, making us use more power. I'll get the fuel though, and once we get the fuel, that's even more refineries online. We already have all those assemblers up there working, or not. So let's run up there and fix that. Do we have any fuel being made? Oh yeah. Very, very slowly. We're getting some empty packages. Excellent, that means some water is being used. That means some fuel's being developed. That should mean eventually, once all of the fuel gets pumped up here, we'll have turbo fuel. Not unless this is actually powered Let me guess, I just didn't connect the blueprints together. Classic mistake. Always the fun thing when you turn on a giant project like this. You find out real quick the mistakes you made. That gets all of the assemblers online. Awesome. Compacted coal going downstairs, being ready to be processed. Power draw is okay. Like, our consumption is just passing production. Now it's just the painful game of waiting. But oh my gosh, some turbo fuel is being pumped. That means the generators are gonna start soon. And now it's a race. We need the generators to boot online before the batteries run out. Except the consumption is only gonna keep going up as well as more machines come online. So what it all boils down to is if the batteries can survive long enough, and if past kibs built enough to keep the grid afloat. And my goodness, we have our first couple fuel generators coming online. Let's go! The turbo fuel is flowing. Oh, but we have a huge problem. I didn't balance out the loading and unloading of all of the packaged water. So some of these systems in the fuel area run more than others, which means they're gonna unload more empty canisters. But because all the refilling stations are all the same, that means some belts are gonna get more canisters than others, and there's a potential that they all back up. And once that happens, we can't unpackage the fuel stops, and the entire power plant will collapse. But that is still a future kibs problem. Right now, we're just hoping and praying that those batteries survive. Wait! We've done it. We've already done it. We've crossed the threshold. The power is still being consumed more, but the production is already over 9,000. So no matter what at this point, the system survives. For a couple more minutes until the package is back up. No, this package thing needs to be fixed ASAP then. And we're just gonna throw on a quick band-aid solution. Now is to build a huge empty canister shuffler. So all it does is it mixes up some of the lines, so it hopefully distributes things a little bit more evenly. Like in a perfect world, I have smart splitters and we can do like a proper canister overflow system here, but I'm working with what I got and I'm just trying to keep things alive. So this should work out, or the system will collapse again as like one of these bins gets filled or something. I don't know. In fact, I really won't know how the system's running for quite some time. There's a lot of pipes that need to overflow. There's a lot of materials being processed at varying rates. And there are almost certainly a million different pipe issues that I have no idea that exist yet. But our main goal is accomplished. And we have power out the wazoo. 40,000 megawatts. And once everything is running properly, the whole system should get up to about 55,000 megawatts. Plus the power boost from the alien augmenter. So there's tons of work still to do here, but the main thing is it's online in some capacity. So I'm gonna end things off here for now. But if you enjoyed, remember to subscribe for more. And if you want my world saves and blueprints and all that jazz, check out my Patreon. But until next time, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and bye-bye.